Hi again, and welcome to part 3 of how to make this lacy freeform top. If you've seen the first 2 parts, you will have seen us start off making one side and then how to square off the other side. So what I've done now is I've pinned up together these 2 pieces, so with the right sides together, so you can see these are our super fluffy bits. That's how we're telling which is the right side. So I've put the right sides together and I've pinned them up here with stitch markers to show where the edges and the edge will be and the edge of the neck hole will be. You could use safety pins, you could use just bits of a contrasting color yarn like red or white or something like that so you can see where they are. So I've pinned these together here, and then here down the side I'm going to sew up down here, and likewise on this side sewing up down this side with armholes in here. So I then went and tried that on to make sure that that did actually work, and it did. So, but you can always adjust that if that's not quite right. So now we're going to stitch it together and make the final garment. So I'm going to use, I think this yarn here is probably going to be one that's going to be most invisible because I don't have any of this fluffy stuff left, as you will remember from the last time. So I'm going to get myself a length to do each section, so I'll cut off a piece like this, and then I've got 2 darning needles here, let's see, like that. I think I'm going to go for the biggest one to sew it up with, but it depends what works best for your yarn that you've got in your top. So let me pull this right through, and I think I'm going to start off up the top here with the neck, this shoulder seam. So really it's a matter of just getting in here. I'm just going to tie this off with a good knot, leave a bit of an end so we can tuck it in well. Make a nice firm knot to start, and then just going to work my way along here just with a what's called a whip stitch, but you can use whatever stitch or whatever way of joining that you like. Sometimes I'll join shoulder seams with crochet stitches, sometimes even on the outside, and make a bit of a feature of it. So there's many ways you can do it. I'm just doing this along here so you can see what we're up to. And we'll be able to tease some of this this fluffy stuff through if we need to disguise this a bit. Okay. So, a bit hard to work out where to go, but as long as you're getting a bit from each side, that's okay. So this is where I've decided that the end is going to be, so I'm just going to take out that marker and just come into here and just attach that there. So I want to pull it up a bit snugly, but not too tight so we don't get it bunching in, so we'll just ease that to make sure it's not going to pull up too tight, and then just do one more go on the edge just to make it snug, and tuck it through and pull it up. Okay, that's one shoulder seam done. Leave a bit of length for tucking in. Okay, now just do the other side. Again, I'll start from the neck edge, I think, and work outwards. It just gives you a bit more that way. If there is anything happening at the end you can work that out. So here we go. Let's come through here, tie this around this. And just going to sew this up. Just easing it through, not too tight. Work our way around the fluffy bits. Okay. Heading on down to the shoulder, the armhole end of this seam. And I'm deciding to do the shoulder seams and the side seams as well to make a top. Another approach, oh, what's going on there? Oh. Another approach would be to, you could leave the side seams open and use it as have it as a poncho, which is another option, of course. Quite sure where that one's come from. That must have been an end I didn't tuck in earlier. Let me just pull that through and get that out of the way. Okay, I thought I'd actually gone through and tucked in all my ends, but it seems that I'd missed one. So it's always good to check those. Oopsie, I'm not doing a very neat job here. There we go. Pulling that up, pulling that in a little bit firmly, taking out my marker, cut that off. Take out that marker and this one from the other seam over here. Right, so we have our neck hole here and our two shoulder seams sewn up along there. Right, so like I said, you could just stop there if you want, or you could sew up any length of side seam. So we've got our armhole here. So I'm going to just stitch this much and leave these two ends kind of fairly free. If you wanted, you could go all the way down to the bottom. Again, that's entirely up to you. So I think that's not going to be long enough for me. I'll get a bit more of that. Okay. Right, so that's our armhole. Just double checking what we're doing. Going to start off in here again, just like I did before. Leave a bit of an end, tie a firm knot. And then just making sure we're actually getting a bit of each side. Just coming down. This side's it's not quite the best kind of yarn to really demonstrate sewing this up, but I'm sure you're perfectly capable of sewing up a seam. If the stitches are easier to see, then it's easier to see where you're going, so it's not too much of a problem. Right. That's our first marker. Ease it over those fluffy bits. Stretching it out to make sure we're not pulling this up too tight. And nearly down to this last marker. I'm going to fasten off just here. Yep, that's where I've decided to stop. So where did that go? There, I'll just do one more. Working out, I'm going to take that marker out so I can see a bit better where I'm trying to, oh, see I didn't actually grab that very effectively, so I'm going to go back there, grab that final bit there, do one more go through and lock that off, pull it up tight and cut it off. Right, so I'll take out my markers. There we go. Then we'll flip it over and head down to our other side. So we've got our armhole here, and I'm just going to stitch up this bit on the side down here and leave this last open bit fairly open. Right, so start off on our last seam here, and then I will go away and tuck in all the ends, because I don't think you really want to watch me do that, although I will show you a nifty technique on a couple of them that does help to stop them pulling out, which is always useful. Because with these kind of tops, sometimes when your work is quite open and with a bit of, you know, wear and tear and pulling and being stretched in different directions, the ends can work their way out, and if people cut them off, then you can end up cutting back right back to the original knot, which is not good, because then your work can start to come undone. So what I've learned over the years is that if you thread your end in along your work and then turn around in one direction, and then you turn around and work it back the direction you've came, then when it gets pulled in different directions, you're getting different forces that tend to keep the yarn from pulling in any one direction, which is really handy and does help. I'll show you what I mean in a minute with this last bit of yarn. But I'm about to reach my marker here, so I'm just going to unclip that just to make sure I have been catching what I think I've been catching. Do one more stitch here. Okay, so it's not too tight. I'm going to do one more go over that, tuck it through and pull it up. So now I turn that over. What I'm going to do is just to thread this end up through here. I mean, it's fairly random at this point because, as I keep saying, this fluffy yarn is a bit hard to see what you're doing, but we go up this way, so we'll put it there. I'll stretch it out that way, and then I'm going to turn it around and work backwards and just thread it in again. And then pull that out, stretch that out, and cut the end off. So that way, as this is being pulled, it's not preferentially pulling it in any one direction. Okay, so this is our top. I'm going to turn it around onto the right side. Now, there's a few other ends that I need to sew in. So I'm going to go away and do that. And you all have seen from the shots at the beginning what the final top looks like. So what I also want to show you is, because these kind of tops, it's always really hard to know exactly how much yarn you're going to need. I want to show you what I've got left from what I started with. So there were these two balls of this greyish green wool, and there's about half a ball left. So I've used about half a ball of each of those. Likewise with this one, that's about half a ball. This one as well, probably about half a ball. I took some of that off so I could get the colour change. So that's about half a ball. And that one's about half a ball. I used up all this fluffy stuff because that was very bulky, and you get through that. That's always something to be aware of. You get a big bulky ball, but it doesn't necessarily go very far. And then I've still got an awful lot of this lovely fawn bendigo wool left there. So you don't need a lot of yarn for these kind of tops, but it's always good to, if you have a look at that pile that I started with and what I've ended up with, you'll get a bit of an idea of how much you need. Okay, so I'm going to go away and tuck in the ends, and then I'm going to go and show you what it looks like on. See you soon. Hi, well, here we are, and this is it. I'm wearing it back the other way this time, so there we go. So hopefully these videos have inspired you to get creative and try something of your own. You could try something a bit sparkly or special for an evening kind of top, or something bushy and shaggy for something a bit wilder like this. So really now it's just over to you.